Oh, oh, weird. Well, I was about to say that it's so quiet in here because I turned off my air purifier, but now the air conditioner wants to kick on. I'm not going to be one of those people who holds the mic in the camera. So we're not going to do that. I'm either going to flip it or not use it. We don't see how that works. I don't know what this lighting situation is. Yeah, I have been so tired this week. I've been super tired this week. And I feel like I was probably just lazy last week. I know I said I was going to do a video every week, but that did not happen last week at all. So it's been about 2 weeks since y'all seen me. But I've been over on Instagram and I've been on TikTok. So I just haven't been on YouTube. And I'm like making all these excuses in my head of like why I can keep putting off recording. And today I literally was on my own ass, like, Ashley, just do it. Just get up, just record. You can even be comfortable and do it on the couch. Nobody said that you have to sit at the desk, but that's why I'm on the couch. But then as soon as I started to record or got myself ready to record, my battery wasn't charged. And I'm like, I don't actually have a place to plug in a mic on this camera. And now I'm using this new one. Don't even know if it's working. We all do what it do. We're gonna make it work. And then this camera over here tripping. Welcome to Seeking Alignment, where we are on a mission to find holistic joy and harmony and peace and faith and fulfillment. I am Ashley Nicole, and honestly, I am just a regular girl trying to figure out how to navigate this life that was so graciously given to me. And I'm just here to talk to y'all and talk through things that I have learned and experiencing right now, and hopefully make a connection with some of you and teach you something along the way, or at least start a conversation that can help both parties, adults better, navigate friendships better, navigate relationships better, navigate career and purpose and faith better as well. And all of that is very timely for the topic of today's video. But first, we're going to do a wellness check. So because I've been gone for 2 weeks, I had to take some notes about what's even been going on because, again, I told y'all in the first video, my memory, we're not going to rely on it. So I try to take notes. And then, so if I'm looking down, I'm looking at my computer now. I don't have my iPad today because that's dead as well. But, okay, wellness check. Let's do highs and lows. So my first high, so I So somehow my mother always gets through my do not disturb. I don't even remember where I was when my phone started ringing. Oh, okay. I was going to do my highs and lows. So, wellness segment, wellness check. So, my highs and lows for, I'm going to say the last couple weeks because I did not record a video in the last couple weeks. My first high is that I guess that was 2 Fridays ago now. I don't remember. Probably 2 Fridays ago now. I got to record. I got to shoot. So I was in the studio with one of my favorite people from the internet. We had literally been internet mutuals for years at this point. And this was our very first time meeting in person. She came to Dallas and needed some updated headshots because she's doing a rebrand. And we were able to get in the studio. And when I tell y'all, like, that really re-sparked all of my creative energy. I'm so excited. I literally, like, back when I was doing photography, like mostly mainly, I used to take probably a week or so to edit pictures. When I tell you I got home and immediately started editing, and I was so in love with everything. The shoot was so easily, the vibes were there. Her graphic designer was there too. She was a vibe. We went out to eat. We had great Jamaican food. It was just a good time. I needed to feel that creative energy. I needed to talk to other humans that I actually like. Yeah, so that was a really big high from the last few weeks. Like I said, it really re-sparked my creative energy. And I kind of been on the road since then. I've reopened my books. So if you are in Dallas, if you are an influencer or creative yourself, and you need photos, short form videos, whatever, I'm your girl. I'm available and my schedule is flexible. So let me know. My second high is that I got to spend so much more time with my sweet face. My nephew is so adorable. I had him with me, I guess this past Friday or this past Thursday. This past Thursday. My brother had something to do and my sister-in-law was still at work. And they brought me my little sweet face. Oh my goodness. If you've been on my Instagram, you saw the little reel I made. I love him so much. Being an auntie is literally the best job ever. I wish I could do that full time. And it's a possibility. I have been thinking about becoming a nanny. I don't have any experience with children, but I don't know. I've been having these pushes to do like extremely new things lately. And my ovaries been tingling a little bit as I've hit the 31 mark. And I don't know, I just been wanting to be around the energy of babies. And I had just been thinking about like, oh, I could be a nanny for the family. My schedule is so flexible, and I just have this need to help, this need to be nurturing. But then I was like, but that means being with a stranger. And then the opportunity came up for me to be with my nephew more. And I was like, okay, I'd rather do this than be with a stranger. But anyway, more on that at another time. Don't know yet, because my third high is new job. I can't even say randomly, but I'm kind of entering a new field. And not even I am, because I've never done this in a professional setting, but I'm entering the mental health field as they call it a CSSP, which is Community Service Specialist Professional. So I don't know what it stands for, but in the mental health field, I'm working directly with clients. A lot of them are children, some of them are teenagers, some of them are adults, but essentially it's case management. They have a treatment planner, their psychiatrist, whoever, and it could be mental health related, but it also could be adjusting, could be behavioral for the children. And I'm just kind of like going in, checking on them. Hey, what's up? Are you following the plan? So I'm being annoying, but like I've been in therapy probably, I'm gonna say, for on and off for like 10 years, and I'm never going to downplay what therapists do, because I can't even count how many of them have put up with me. But essentially it's in that lane, and it's coming full circle because of my book and just my passion for mental health and talking about it and making it less. So this is different. I actually went in for like training today, and when I like the acronyms, the paperwork is all way outside of things that I'm used to, but I was so excited just to be learning about this. For most people who don't know, I was originally a psychology minor in college, and I ended up dropping it once I got really into more media, because I wanted to kind of build my own major. And I don't know, just kind of focus on things that were media related, because I knew that's where I'm going. Kind of put psychology to the side, and not just because of career focus, but because I was driving myself crazy diagnosing myself from the DSM. So like the DSM is like a book. I don't even know. They're probably like the DSM-5 now. And I think they might have revamped the whole system. But the DSM is a book that basically helps you diagnose mental disorders and neurodivergence and stuff like that. I thought I had everything. And my grandmother used to tell me all the time that I was a hypochondriac. And it wasn't until adulthood that I'm like, she was on to something. So yes, I had to push that aside so that I wouldn't continue to drive myself crazy, which I still did anyway. I just didn't have clinical terms for it, but that's neither here nor there. So anyway, I'm going to be doing that, and I'm excited. It does require me to leave the house a lot more. I think that's the one thing that I'm nervous about, mostly because I'm still struggling to create routines. And one of the things that stressed me out in college with having a full-time job and stuff like this, that I was just all over the place. I knew that a routine would help me. I just suck. I struggle with sticking to one or creating something. I don't know what it is. I'm still working on that, which brings me to low number one. adjusting to change. And this is where I'm like trying to determine how vulnerable I want to be with this. But I am no stranger to change. I am no stranger to starting over. But it don't get no easier for me. Like, I mean, I guess it does, but mentally it still takes a toll on me. You know, when there are big changes, especially if they are random or unsettling, and especially if it has to do with another person. And so relationships bring me a lot of anxiety, and then to have a big change in a relationship, like Mr. Krabs meme, like oh my goodness. So I'm having grace with myself as I adjust to changes of relationships ending, trying to start new relationships. And I'm speaking romantically, platonically, familially, if that's a word. New job, mourning like we don't talk about mourning the loss of careers, of friendships, of just things that we've been so used to. And this is all gonna flow in today's main topic, though I'm still in the wellness segment. We don't grieve things like that enough. We don't take the time to grieve friendships or, you know, businesses failing or anything like that. And for me, being a graphic designer became a personality trait. My career accomplishments, my business was my whole life. I spent my 20s really building a business, tunnel vision. I didn't worry about, I mean, I guess I dated here and there, but I can't say there were any serious relationships, you know, in my 20s. Nothing that was going anywhere. Let me say that. I took them seriously sometimes, but nothing that I knew was going to be in my future. I really, really focused in on my business. And though the growth was always slow, it was always the thing that I held the closest to me. It was everything to me. And I say being a graphic designer because that's what brought me the most income, the most revenue. That's the most recognition too. I always had photography, and that's what I started my business with. But graphic design, web design, brand design. That was my love. That was like my first husband. And trying to run a business that I barely knew I started is weird for some people to hear me say, but like, I feel like a lot of people experience this. You just fell into entrepreneurship. You just fell into running the business. I had no blueprint. And so I was just really focused, and the amount of success I was at least for what I was considering success, because again, I hadn't seen this. It was not around me. In the pandemic, during the pandemic, I had my first $10,000 month. That was unheard of from where I'm from the people that I grew up around or the people that are in my family. And if it did happen, they didn't talk about it. And if it did happen, it was probably a man. There was nobody within my reach as a Black woman, nobody that looked like me reaching those type of milestones. And so I didn't celebrate that enough. But I kept going. I'm like, okay, it's only going to get better from here. It's only going to get better from here. But then I hit a point where I didn't know what else to do. You hit a point in business where you need mentorship, where you need business besties and people who are going in the same direction as you, but also people who have already been there and they can reach back and let you know the lay of the land. Because I reached a point where it wasn't Googleable anymore for like what's next. Like, how do I fix this? How do I actually operate as a CEO? And I'm saying all of that to say that my business didn't fail, but I stopped loving it because of the parts that aren't glamorous. The dealing with people, especially when I'm responsible for a huge part of somebody else's baby. So if my business is my baby and my job is to help other people make their baby look good and make sense, they're handing me their child. And I, of all people, know how hard that is and how hard it is to let go. And so the tension that creates between you as a business owner or as the service provider, and the client as another business owner, it's so much tension. And I started to get more anxiety around projects and phone calls and marketing and all of that stuff. It just started to feel so gross to me, especially the way that the internet is moving, of like just the way social media has changed branding and marketing. Everything just started to feel so gross to me, and I just no longer enjoyed it, but I was doing it and just chasing checks. So saying yes to clients and saying yes to projects because bills. And in that, I started ignoring my intuition. I would have times where I'm like, I know this project is not going to work out because the way that I work and the way that this person works and their business, it's not going to mesh. It's not going to work. And so either I'm going to have to step outside of my systems and my processes to jump through hoops to meet this person's needs and to meet this business's needs, or I'm going to be stern and they're going to push back, and it's just going to be like, it was just always something. And anytime I had that feeling, but I looked at my bank account and I looked at my bills, well, got to take the project. And it still ended up blowing up in a good way. And more recently, it happened again. And that was the final straw for me. And I had already kind of backed away from graphic design, but there have been tons of hard situations as a business owner that have taken the love out of it for me. And so now I'm grieving this thing that was a huge part of my identity. That brings me to today's main topic. I've done a lot of talking, and can you believe we haven't even gotten to the main topic? Actually have. Today's topic is identity crises. The title of this video is Identity Crisis. And I cannot tell y'all how many midlife crises, whatever you want to call them, that I've been through. And here I am going through another one. And I feel like this one is so huge. Again, I am now grieving a huge part of my identity that was in my business, that people know me for, that was all of my livelihood. And I decided, with not really any type of announcement, that I'm just walking away from it for now. I still love design. I still love the psychology of it. I still love the process of it. I still love the creativity of it, but I don't right now love it as a career. And I don't want to continue to beat that horse and end up hating something that I'm so good at, and that something that I once loved. I don't want it to get to a point where I can't even open up Illustrator anymore. Like, that would be devastating. And I don't think it would ever get to that point, just because of how my brain works. I don't not see design in anything that I'm doing, but I don't want to resent it. And there's other things that I'm good at, so I'm leaning into those things. But all of this change brought me to a thought of, I lost my journal. I'm losing my mind. Hold on. What did I haven't moved. So hold on, y'all. I found it. So a therapist that I was working with in 2020 during the pandemic assigned to me some homework to write down who I am, what makes me who I am. So the caveat, the trick, was to do this without mentioning anything that was a career accomplishment or a title that had to do with work. I feel like I have been in an identity crisis since this day. I ended up not even doing the homework. And I wrote down some notes from the conversation that we had after I told her I didn't do my homework. And so this was sometime early December 2020. Okay, so this is what I wrote. I feel like I've been having an identity crisis since that day. And yes, a 3-year identity crisis, because I spent an entire decade from 18 to 28 specifically. I spent an entire decade building this persona that I then internalized, and then I made it my source of confidence. So this is what I wrote. Again, this is like early December 2020. It says, I've created this I'm good persona and internalized it as my source of confidence. My confidence is literally tied to my independence level or my level of self-sufficiency, my bounce back game, etc. Now I'm tired and I can't seem to ask for help because I might appear weak, not only to others, but to myself. Hyper independence has always been a thing that has been an issue for me. And I feel like within the last year, I've done much better, much, much better at eradicating that. But what I am still struggling with is my identity outside of work. And, with this new change of switching career fields and focusing more on being in front of the camera instead of behind it, it's a lot. Like, I knew it would be a lot, and the whole purpose was to challenge myself, but I didn't know what it would feel like. I didn't know that it would have a mental and emotional effect in this way. So it brought me to kind of realize that do we have hobbies out? Like, do y'all have hobbies outside of work? Like, what do I enjoy doing that's not working? What do I do in my spare time besides sleeping? And another part of this, there's so many layers, was that when I felt like I was finally finding that, it was because of the relationship I was in. And he got me to be in rooms that I wouldn't have been in, doing fun, adventurous things that I wouldn't have had the opportunity to do without being in a relationship or without being attached to another person. And so when that ended, or as it's ending, I'm back to what do I do? There are certain things I can do by myself. I don't mind going out to eat by myself. If I didn't think I would waste money and fall asleep, I would go to the movies by myself. I'll go to church. I will to a park. I'll go work out. But I don't know, it's bringing me right back to this identity crisis. I put so much weight into my accomplishments and into my work. What do those, and not that they lose meaning, but it feels weird to no longer be pursuing those same things and now feeling like in the world of content creation, in the world of video, I don't have any clout. I don't have any accomplishments to back me up. Same thing with this new job venture. I am the person that has needed mental health help. How am I qualified to now help these people? Certified in anything? I'm not, it just feels very weird. But that goes back to last week's or the previous video where I talked about being called and not having to be qualified. And that also reminds me of another note. So this is my old therapy journal. And I found a note that said, what did I do with it? Oh, that said, the experience is yours, but the lesson you learn belongs to the people you are here to serve. My therapist in this same year said that. I wish I could remember her name right now. But once I moved to Texas, I had to find a new therapist. I can't remember her name, but this book is filled with all these little gems. And so I just keep having to come back to that. Though I might not feel qualified in any of these new things, they are bringing me joy. And I am actually feeling and seeing and foreseeing the impact and the influence that I will have in these spaces. And that's enough. I've been called here for a reason. I can see that there are things that will make me uncomfortable, but they will, in the long run, benefit me, but also benefit others. And that's enough. I'm called. I will get qualified, But then at church, I believe this was the message last week, Pastor Darius Daniels, I was watching online. because the church that I go to here in Arlington, they're on sabbatical. Actually, I watched both of them. Oh, I wasn't feeling well. That's why I didn't get up and go to church. But the message was from Mark 10. I want to say Mark chapter 10, verses like 17, 8. Let me find it, y'all. But it's about the rich young ruler. And this is like a parable about, because I don't think there's an actual ruler, because there was never, I didn't even realize I broke my nail, because there was never an actual name given. And I believe Mark is pretty much full of parables. But basically, there was a rich young ruler that came to Jesus and was like, how do I inherit eternal life? And Jesus was basically like, well, you got to keep the commandments. And he started listing from the commandments. And the rich young ruler responded like, I do all of that. So, like, what's up? And Jesus said to him, let me find it so I can read it exactly. It says, looking at him, Jesus showed love to him and said to him, one thing you lack, go and sell all that you possess and give. So my camera stopped recording for whatever reason. So I'm going to come back to what I was saying, I think. So the rich young ruler. So he basically went to Jesus and asked him, how do I inherit eternal life? And Jesus was like, well, you got to follow the commandments. And he started listing all these things that, will help you get to heaven. And then the rich young ruler came back and was like, I do all of that. So like, what's up? And Jesus was like, let me read it. I'm giving y'all the AAVE version. But Jesus said, one thing you lack, go and sell all of your possessions and give to the poor. And then you will have treasure in heaven. And then come and follow me. So in my mind, I was like, read this parable before, but I didn't really understand it for what was the lesson here, right? So Pastor broke it down and he's like, imagine, look at the title. They never told you who the rich young ruler was, but he's a rich young ruler. He's young, he's rich, and he has dominion over whatever he's ruling, right? He got to have a little confidence about him. He's probably feeling himself. So all he wanted to do was to make sure the stamp of approval was there. So I'm going to heaven, right? And Jesus was like, you don't murder, you don't do any of this, but you're too attached to your possessions. You are too attached to your titles. I had to pause. First of all, I'm watching live stream, so I had to pause the TV to gather myself because that is exactly what is happening to me right now. This rich young ruler was too attached to his worldly titles, his worldly possessions, doing everything else right, but his focus wasn't in the right place. So Jesus told him, if you can get rid of all that stuff, give it to the poor, then come and follow me, I got you to heaven. And I feel like this also goes back to the story of Job as well, but I feel like I'm being stripped of all the things. I feel like I'm being stripped of all of the possessions and the titles and the relationships that I put so much worldly value into. I feel like I'm being stripped of all of the titles and relationships and material things that I put so much worldly value to in order for room to be made for me to really, really, really build this relationship with God. And that's been one of my biggest goals for this year, right? So life and death is in the power of the tongue. Be careful what you wish for, however you want to put it. That has been one of my biggest focuses of this year. And it took something pretty traumatic last year to really push me to like, okay, Ashley, you need to really work on your relationship with God. Do you know God? Yes. Have you always known God? Yes. But I'm guilty of being one of those Christians, and I've never actually really called myself a Christian, but I've been guilty of being one of those people who adopted religion because of how they were raised, and how their parents were raised and things like that. It's just always been a part of my life. I feel like I've always known that there was a disconnect, and that's why I haven't identified myself as a Christian. But it wasn't until this past year that I'm like, I need to go see for myself. How many times have I memorized Bible verse? All of my childhood was memorizing the entire Bible, catechisms and all. But as an adult, these things that I had to memorize meant something, and I don't really know the meaning. I need to go back. I need to start over. I need to go see for myself, what is this, and build my own personal relationship with God that is separate from the private schools that I grew up in the separate from the relationship that my family has with God or religion in general, which is already all over the place. My mom's side of the family is Baptist, my dad's side of the family is Catholic, and my brother and I grew up in Lutheran schools. So religion or denomination wise, it's always been all over the place, and I feel like that created a disconnect for me. And so now I want to see for myself. I feel like I've always known God. I've always intellectually known who he is, but relationships aren't intellectual. There's so many other layers. And I've always been jealous, and I'm going to say jealous of people who say, oh, God told me. And for people who truly believe that they have the ability to talk, to hear God's voice, right? I know some people use like, God said, or like the Holy Spirit said, or whatever, as euphemism or whatever, as just like a figure of speech. But like for those people who really, I think there are people out there who really do have such a personal relationship with God that they do hear his voice, they do hear the Holy Spirit. And I feel like I'm just now trying to tap into that for myself, but also like kind of tapping into it for myself. I can't say that I know what God's voice sounds like, but I feel like I am at the place where I'm developing some discernment. I know what Holy Spirit feels like. And so I'm just trying to continue to develop my relationship with God, with the Holy Spirit, because I want to know for myself. I believe me be with me and my Jesus at this point, just separate from like everything else. But at the same time, I used to always feel like that my relationship with God was my business, and I didn't have to tell anybody if I was a Christian or that I prayed or that I liked going to church, or like you didn't have to talk about it online. But I don't believe that anymore. I feel like, I don't know why I ever believed it. I guess because I was kind of ashamed of, believing in God. Why? I'm not really sure. But now I'm like, that don't even make sense, because we're here to spread the gospel. We are here to make disciples of men. So why would it be just keeping how good God is to myself? I don't know, whatever. A lot of things don't make sense until you actually sit down and think about it. But yeah, I don't even remember where I was going with that. Oh, the rich young ruler being pretty much go get rid of everything that made you who you are, everything that gave you that title. You're no longer going to be a rich ruler if you give away all your stuff to the poor. But now you have to find your identity, and your identity in God without all the distractions. And that's where I feel like I am. So I'm trying to develop what relationships outside of work. Most of my friends started from business, started from work. So like, what does relationship look like without without work-related titles? What do hobbies look like outside of work? I'm not introduced myself without saying, like, I'm a graphic designer, a photographer, and a self-published author. Who am I outside of my work accomplishment? So that's where my identity crisis lies right now. And I'm not saying that those things don't matter anymore. They still hold a very big, a very dear place in my heart. And I feel like I won't negate like what I have been able to accomplish. I'm never going to not celebrate those things. I was going to say brag on myself. I'm not really a bragger, but I'm never going to not celebrate those things, because it took so much. I learned so much through those times, and now I'm able to apply those business lessons or those lessons of what I neglected because of business to my life now. And so I don't necessarily have to go back and relearn those hard lessons. I can just reflect and be able to find the takeaways in it all. I've never been a 10-year into the future planner, but I've always been at least a couple of years. But right now, it is terrifying to say that at 31, I don't have a plan. I don't know what the future holds. And in previous years, previous versions of myself, I would be freaking out, y'all. I would be freaking out right now. But somehow I am the most at peace I've ever been. I'm the happiest I've ever been. And though it still doesn't, this happy and this piece doesn't look like what I thought it would look like, there's still pieces of it that I'm mourning. There's still pieces of it that feel incomplete. But as cliche as it sounds, I feel like God is filling those holes for me right now. And I want that to continue. I want to figure out what this looks like in a sustainable manner. So yeah, that's what I've been on, y'all. I know I'm not the only person going through an identity crisis. So the takeaway is to figure out what part of your identity is rooted in material things, is rooted in worldly things, is rooted in things outside of your energy, your presence, your being, outside of God, outside of purpose, and figure out how to detach from those things, not throw those accomplishments away. I'm not saying get rid of those titles, but figure out who you are if those things are stripped away from you, because I never thought I would not be Ashley Nicole, the graphic designer, or Ashley Nicole, the owner of Artistry Studios. I never thought about anything outside of that. Now I want to know, who am I? Just Ashley Nicole, the 31-year-old Black girl. What does Ashley, the mother, look like? What does Ashley, the wife, look like? I'm evaluating my relationships. I literally, hours ago, just had a conversation with a friendship that I thought I would never be able to salvage because I probably fucked it up. I neglected parts of that friendship, even though it meant so much to me. Well, now, what does Ashley the friend look like in this season? What does Ashley the sister look like? What does Ashley the auntie look like in this season? And all of those things are outside of Ashley the graphic designer, Ashley the photographer, Ashley the business owner. And that feels weird, excuse me, but and unknown. I don't know the answers to any of those things. But I'm excited to explore them and, figure out what this season has for me. What I feel like, even in this state of so much being unknown, I feel like I'm so much closer to my purpose or whatever God put me on this earth for. And I'm enjoying figuring it out. I've been talking forever. We are going to end on restating that quote from my therapist that says, the experience is yours, but the lesson you learned belongs to the person you are here to serve, the person or the people you are here to serve. So remember that, think about that when you feel like you don't have a story to tell or you don't, have anything to offer, whatever situation. All stories don't have to be tragic stories. Everything don't have to be a struggle story. Everything doesn't have to be all figured out before you start telling your story either. So whatever it is that you've been through, good or bad, are we not supposed to share it? Consider sharing it because it might help somebody. They might not be sharing it as publicly as I'm sharing my goddamn business right now, but consider sharing it, even if it's just with one person that you know or don't know. I will see y'all hopefully next week. Love you, my sunshine.
Okay, y'all. So until next time, stay inspired, stay creative, and keep shining.